Hey, good evening, everybody. Tonight we're going to do the third edition to knowing your rights, your constitutional rights, and I'm coming to you live from my nice, comfy couch inside my nice, warm home. And the reason why I bring it up is because tonight we're talking about the Third Amendment, which is my favorite amendment to talk about because it is the easiest one to talk about, and it goes as follows: the government cannot force you to house troops in your home. That's it. It's a wrap. See you next week. Well, of course, I'll give you a little bit more detail here. So, what happens is, as I've said with the other amendments, the Constitution is reactionary to a lot of the what happened pre-revolution. So, pre-revolution, um, Britain got a little bit tired of America. Well, actually, we're not even America at this point. The colonies. We were basically distant cousins of jolly old England. And what happened was the colonists kept pushing westward, and that was going into French territory. So even though there were treaties and there were also the Native Americans, and the colonists kept pushing, 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 and that resulted in conflicts. And what would happen is the colonists would kind of start a fight, reach back home to England. Oh, we need help, and then the British would send troops over, and the English were incurring a lot of costs out of this. So what they basically said was, well, you colonists have to start picking up the tab in certain respects. So if for the troops, if they that were garrisoned in these areas, if there wasn't a barracks already built, or maybe the barracks was too crappy, or whatever the case may be, then the colonists had to find other housing. So it might be the public house, right? So the ale house. It might be converting a possible stable into barracks. But after we get into the nitty gritty with the Stamp Act, and as a result of we get the Stamp Act, you get the Boston Tea Party, and we get the early stages of the American Revolution. Britain changed it to, well, we're going to quarter the troops not only in your town, and if all those other options aren't available, you are going to be responsible for sheltering troops in your home, which made colonists very uneasy because, first off, if you're trying to ferment a revolution and you got soldiers hanging out in your living room, it's a problem. But also it became a little bit of a security issue in that, like, I don't want some troops hanging around my wife, my young daughters, whatever the case may be. So the way the law breaks down is that the government cannot force you to house troops in your home without your consent. And even, let's say there's some kind of funky war going on in Vermont. I don't know why you'd be going to war in Vermont. And let's say they roll out the National Guard or something along those lines. You would still have to give consent, but even in times of war, there would have to be a legal decree. So the troops just can't roll up and say, "Hey, we need a place to eat, we need a place to sleep." But yeah, the beautiful thing about the Third Amendment is there are no lawsuits over this. It's like the little amendment that could. There's literally no Supreme Court cases. When we get into First Amendment rights with lawsuits over maybe like religion in schools, or First Amendment, or Second Amendments, about guns and who could have guns, and all that stuff. Where we go into the Fourth Amendment, right? So we'll get into that, but searches and seizures, or pleading the Fifth Amendment, right? All that's the Third Amendment. It's never been challenged. There's never been an issue. There was one court case involving like the National Guard, which referenced the lower courts referenced it, but it's never gone to the Supreme Court. Folks, when we get into the nitty gritty, when we get into lawsuits involving the amendments against slavery, or something in that area, that was challenged. Does the government have the right to do this? Third Amendment, super easy. There's nothing going on. So that's your lesson for today. Catch you next time.